And breaking news coming in, very, very disturbing story coming in of an Indian student who has lost his life in this conflict in Ukraine. We are told that the student was trying to come to the railway station but was shot at, is the information that is coming in. We are still trying to verify more details, try to get more details, but the information is one Indian student has lost his life in Ukraine in the ongoing conflict. The circumstances still not known of how the student was targeted, but information at this point of time is that an Indian student has lost his life in the offensive here in Ukraine. The government of India has issued an advisory. The government has asked Indians to leave as quickly as possible. The information that we can confirm at this stage is the Ministry of External Affairs in Delhi has confirmed, and I quote Arindam Bagchi, the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs, with profound sorrow, we confirm that an Indian student lost his life in the shelling in Kharkiv this morning. The ministry is in touch with his family. We convey our deepest condolences to the family. What we're also being told is that the Foreign Secretary is calling in ambassadors of Russia and Ukraine to reiterate our demand for urgent safe passage for Indian nationals who are still in Kharkiv and cities in other conflict zones. Similar action is being undertaken by Indian officials in other areas. This is the information. Arindam Bagchi, spokesperson for the Ministry of External Affairs, has confirmed that an Indian student has lost his life in Kharkiv in Russian shelling. I want to cut across to India Today's Polami Saha for more on the story. Polami, what more can you add? This is terrible. The eastern city of Kharkiv is witnessing intense pounding and shelling. What more can you tell us about what the government is telling us about the student?
Well, Gaurav, we're waiting for the government to confirm these details. We do know that this young student, we do have some details. I don't know if I'm in a position to share the details of the student at this moment of time, considering that the family, that the government is in touch with the family and is informing the family at present about the unfortunate and very tragic incident that has taken place in Kharkiv. What we do know in terms of the incident, Gaurav, that did take place, what we're learning from some of our sources on the ground, students that we've been speaking to, is that this young boy was possibly standing in a queue to get food when, in fact, he was attacked when there was shelling, and he unfortunately lost his life. And he was in Kharkiv. He is a medical student who was studying in Ukraine. He was, like I said, standing in queue for food when this firing took place, the shelling took place, as the Indian government is now informing us. And unfortunately, this young boy, who we, of course, are waiting for the government to inform the family, but what we do know that he, in fact, hails from Karnataka. That is the information that I can share at the moment, at least, that he hails from Karnataka. He's a very young boy. He is only 22 years old, a little short of 22. He, in fact, is a young boy who was, in fact, studying in Ukraine. And this is the incident which has taken place. These are the details that I can share at present, Gaurav, because, like I said, the MEA is in the process of informing the family at the moment.
Terrible news coming in, Polami. Stay with me. Terrible news coming in, Polami. Stay with me. One Indian medical student has lost his life in Kharkiv, in the eastern city of Ukraine, where intense fighting is being reported. India Today was reporting from Kharkiv earlier, and this is an area which the Russians were planning to target. This was high on their agenda. The government of India has asked all Indians to leave Ukraine as quickly as possible. Multiple advisories have been issued asking Indians to leave. The problem students were facing, and India Today spoke to a number of students, not just in Kiev but in other parts of the country. They were having problems with online and offline classes, and also certain problems in movement. There was a lot of problem in movement out of strife-torn area into Kiev, and then from Kiev onwards. Also, they wanted their certificates. They wanted to know about their online classes. They wanted to know when would they be able to back. There was a lot of uncertainty which delayed the departure of several Indian students despite multiple advisories. But sadly, one Indian student has lost his life. One Indian student has lost his life in Kharkiv in the intense shelling that's going on. Was there a delay in either advisories being issued, Polami, or effort being made to get Indian students out of this strife-torn area? Or was it too sudden, the manner in which the Russians attacked? It gave very little time for children to react, for resources to be mobilized, for them to get here and out of harm's way, Polami.
Unfortunately, Gaurav, there has been a lot of debate and discussion over this as to whether, the advisories came in very late, or whether they should have been a little bit more urgent sounding instead of just quote-unquote advising the students, whether the government should have mounted an evacuation. In fact, based on intel that they were picking up on from the ground itself and from ally nations as well, whether they should have started the evacuation process much earlier. Like you did point out, also the students were a little reluctant to leave immediately given the nature of circumstances at their universities, because they were being told that the classes would not go online, that they would continue offline only, and hence they were very worried about their careers, about jeopardizing things, given that they had in fact enlisted themselves, enrolled for these courses, paid a lot of money. Hence, they were not at that point of time leaving. Also, at that point of time, because we were still flying commercials in terms of flights that were being, in fact, were being sent to Kiev at that point of time before the airspace closed. Some of the students complained that the fares were too high. They couldn't afford it. It seemed much more than the regular sort of fare, one-way fare between Kiev and Delhi, or Kiev and Mumbai. And hence, they did not, in fact, take that option. So, a lot of dilemma as far as the students were concerned. And then, of course, the questions, of course, for the government as well. But the government, of course, has been issuing advisories, since February 15th itself, consistent advisories telling the students that the situation is getting extremely precarious and they should, in fact, get out of Ukraine as soon as possible. We've, of course, escalated the mission right now. Operation Ganga is on full scale. We have airlines, Air India Express, SpiceJet, Indigo, all flying to, of course, neighboring countries like Romania, Slovakia, Hungary, Poland and Moldova at present as well. And, of course, today the Prime Minister has asked for the Indian Air Force to, in fact, operate their C-17 aircraft as well in order to land in these neighboring nations so that we can evacuate more nationals who are crossing the borders in a shorter span of time. So we've escalated the size of this mission. But this is the most unfortunate piece of tragic news that neither you wanted to report on, Gaurav, neither I wanted to report on. We were hoping that this sort of situation doesn't arise. And unfortunately, right now, with the situation getting extremely tense in areas like Kharkiv and Sumy in Kiev, we have to see, and the Indian government has to see on the ground how they can escalate this mission and evacuate as many nationals. As we said, as Arindam Bakshi, the spokesperson for MEA, has said that the Foreign Secretary has called the ambassadors of Russia and Ukraine and has sought their assistance in the speedy and safe passage of Indian nationals to the western borders of Ukraine. And similarly, our officials are engaging with the Russian and the Ukrainian officials on the ground as well there.